Welcome to Motorsport on 4 from Brands Hatch, where today's races are on the short IndyCar circuit. I'm joined this week by Ben Edwards as Amanda's away racing at Goodwood. But Ben, you're no stranger to this circuit.
No, Tim, I spent many years instructing and racing here. I love this place. The important thing is to get into the flow and rhythm of this track, and particularly when you're overtaking, you've sometimes got to set up your overtaking move 2 or 3 corners ahead and really use your head.
I'll try and bear that in mind. Thanks, Ben, but let's look back at the last Formula 3 races from Thruxton.
My goodness. Here we go, Lanson champagne time. Yes, far too experienced. The Lanson champagne go! From the new 2001 green flag, British Formula 3 champion.
The Brands Hatch Indy circuit is generally one complete corner, but our best overtaking manoeuvre is down the pit straight into Paddock Hill Bend. To actually get success there, it all starts here at Surtees. We come into the corner, taking a little bit of curb, and then fire it to the entrance of Clearways. When you get there, the car must be very well settled under the brakes. Turn the car in, again making sure everything's settled. Apply the power gingerly to start off with in Clearways, and then gradually accelerate out to 100%. Takes you down the pit straight into Paddock Hill Bend, where you make that successful move. Let's see how it's actually done the proper lap. Here we are on a lap around the Brands Indy circuit with Mike Jordan in the wonderful Lister Storm. Gets good exit speed onto the pit straight here. 4th, 5th, 6th gear, probably topping around about 155 miles an hour before he gets onto the brakes. Down into 5th, settles the car on the braking and turns the car in, getting good exit up the hill into Druids. On the brakes under the bridge, down into 3rd gear, getting the car settled, turn it in, and then applying the power up into 4th gear, looking at Graham Hill. Graham Hill slightly off camber, turn it in, take a little bit of curb. Now this is the part we talked about earlier. Get up to about 140 miles an hour here. You must make sure you take a little bit of curb on the entrance into Surtees, and then here we come up into Clearways. Brake, car settled very well there. Initially starting the power, now 100% on the throttle. 4th, 5th, 6th gear, and that's a lap with Mike Jordan in the Lister Storm.
With a 30-point lead in the scholarship class and only 80 left up for grabs, Robbie Kerr knew a solid performance at Brands would virtually give him the title. But early in qualifying, a major accident put that strategy at risk.
But the car was going well. We still kept hold on to 2nd place on the grid, and so we still can get points from there.
His only rival for the title, Matthew Gilmore, took advantage and grabbed pole position.
Yes, very happy. I returned to form. Hopefully we can hold this form to the end of the year now.
Joining the scholarship ranks at Brands, newcomer Ian Brown, the Scottish Formula Vauxhall driver.
So, despite only running for 7 laps, Robbie Kerr still managed to get 2nd fastest to Gilmore on the grid. The times very close indeed. Behind them, Michael Gearhan, Kazuki Hoshino, Inani Judis, and Dutchman Robert Doornbos.
So the first of 4 Formula 3 races packed into a single day at Brands Hatch. The scholarship class still open, but Matt Gilmore needed to make the most of his pole position, with series leader Robbie Kerr starting alongside. They got away well, Michael Kyohan in the blue car being swamped by Kazuki Hoshino on the outside and Inani Judis on the inside. 3 abreast into Paddock, but order was restored on the way out.
Mark Mayall ran wide at Clark Corner in his attempt to challenge Peter Nilsson for 8th place, but that error put him under pressure from Aaron Scott. Into Paddock, Scott drove around the outside to take 9th place. And he held on despite running wide over the curves. Mayall fought back, and into Druids he had the inside line and retook the position on the way down to Graham Hill Bend.
Just behind that battle, Harold Premat spun off into the gravel at Paddock. While out front, Matt Gilmore was unchallenged throughout the race. He claimed his 4th win of the season to finish 5 seconds ahead of Robbie Kerr. They were followed by Michael Keohane in 3rd, and then Hoshino, Judas and Doornbos, the top 6 as they started the race.
Matt Gilmore was still on song in qualifying for the next scholarship race. His position on pole unchallenged the whole session. In 2nd place was the Dutchman Robert Doornbos in one of Fred Goddard's cars.
In the other half of the Goddard garage, teammate Robbie Kerr waited anxiously while the mechanics struggled to repair his car after its morning accident. Eventually rejoining the track with just 6 minutes left, he managed to set 7th fastest time.
I'm in debt really badly to the team. They did an excellent job just to get us out there. We didn't think we were going to be allowed out, and well, the team did an excellent job to go around, put it on 7th, despite we didn't even get time to set the car up. We don't know which way the wheels are pointing or anything, so the team did a brilliant job. I owe it all to them.
So we move on to the 2nd scholarship race here at Brands Hatch, and Robbie Kerr starts down in 7th place after his qualifying problems. Now, is this his opportunity to show his championship winning potential and try and move up the field? We're going to find out. Over to you, Martin, while I make a dash for the commentary box.
Thank you, Ben. Better run. Well, of course, Robbie Kerr's problems in practice didn't stop him performing reasonably well in the first race. Let's hope that the car holds together for round 2. The grid cleared and the car's ready to go. Bright autumn sunshine. Revs will rise as they wait for the light. Good start again by the front row men. In Arnie Judas, the white car in 3rd, being passed by Michael Keohane, and again Hoshino from the 3rd row of the grid starting quickly. Keohane just touching Robert Doornbos around the outside of paddock. He gets 2nd place. Gilmore leads, and Doornbos under pressure from the recovering Inani Judas. Behind him, Robbie Kerr alongside Kazuki Hoshino. Those 4 cars wheel to wheel. Kerr there in that cement dust that's been put down to pick up somebody's oil that's all the way around, up and down the hill. And Hoshino fighting back, but Kerr has the place.
Good stuff indeed from Robbie Kerr, trying to make up that lost ground from only qualifying 7th. Let's watch his progress, and Hoshino's still behind him. Good battle going on slightly further back as well.
Mark Mayle coming around the outside of Justin Sherwood onto the straight, under the bridge and then into Paddock Hill Bend. Mayle is still out there. Sherwood holds the inside line. Mayle too committed to cut back, and the top 3 starting to break away now. Inani Judas holding up Robbie Kerr, who's in 5th. And then there's that battle. Sherwood and Mayle are 7th and 8th.
So Matt Gilmore still up front doing exactly what he needs to do as this battle continues further back.
Mayle had a very entertaining race 1. Looks like he's starting race 2 the same way. Robbie Kerr up to 5th. I wonder how much further up the field he can progress. Low afternoon sunshine already a feature there as they come around the back, and off goes Ian Brown. Got it wrong, too fast into Surtees and heavily into the tyres. That's a shame. It's a bit of a uncomfortable welcome to his first Formula 3 weekend.
We're on board with Robbie Kerr through paddock up towards Druids. Has a little look down the inside of Judas, but not quite close enough to have a go, and so follows him on the exit down into Graham Hill Bend. You really have to be brave to make an attempt on one of these corners. You've got so little room, and look at this little battle going on here between Doornbos and Keohane. Look for a moment as though Doornbos might have a chance here into clearways.
Well, this is for 2nd place, of course. Robert Doornbos, very aggressive. Keohane was weaving through traffic to try and fight him off. And defending here is actually fairly easy on the Brands Hatch Grand Prix and Indy circuits. We saw Inani Judas spend an entire race here earlier in the summer holding off the opposition and doing it very successfully. No wonder Robbie Kerr can't get by him here either.
Let's look back at what happened to Ian Brown. Through Surtees, fast corner, the back end got away from him. Perhaps on cold tyres, and after that you're just on the grass into the tyre barrier. There's no great runoff there at the end of the race for Brown.
Start of the race with Robert Doornbos. Ben, put yourself in the driving seat.
Well, let's see, outside front row is quite good at Brands, but in fact it was a very good start for Matt Gilmore. So we close down to the inside here, cover that 2nd place. That's important. He does a good job. But on the outside, Michael Keohane doing an excellent job to go around the outside. That's always possible at paddock. You can't say Doornbos did anything wrong, but Keohane did it all right. Through Druids now, cold tyres, trying to pick up the throttle, trying to get back to those top 2 as we come down to Graham Hill. And let's watch the same from on board Robbie Kerr, starting 7th. Now he makes up a couple of places, gets 1 here off the line. That's a good start for him. Now watching everybody bunching up into Paddock Hill Bend. There's Hoshino right ahead of us. Hoshino goes right, So Kurt's forced to go to the outside and try to drive round the outside of the hairpin. Not always easy, this. You've got to hope the other guy doesn't push you wide, but Hoshino didn't squeeze him out. Kurt had to think about going up the inside of Judas there. Didn't quite come off, but that's how Robbie made up 2 places.
Well, good thinking not to lose his nose ring there halfway round lap 1, survive the corner and fight another one. He's in 5th place, so 2 better than the qualifying, but out front, still, it's Matt Gilmore running away from Michael Keohane here in 2nd place, and he too is easing out of harm's reach from Robert Doornbos. Last lap then for Matt Gilmore, very impressive in race 1, equally so in race 2, a double winning weekend, plus the extra point for fastest lap in each of the pair of races. A big haul of points, Matt Gilmore showing his class at Brands Hatch. 2nd place, Michael Keohane ahead of Robert Doornbos, and Robbie Kerr coming across the line in 5th position, 2nd in race 1, 5th in race 2, behind him Kazuki Hoshino. So Kerr perhaps the man who lost out this weekend.
The important thing is this, of course, keeps your chances alive in the championship.
Yes, they're very alive, and I'm hoping to come away from Silverstone the champion.
Confident about Silverstone?
Yes, I think we can have a good setup. We'll just have to wait and see.
Well, Silverstone will tell us everything. 11 points between Kerr and Gilmore. One of them must be champion.
With his 2nd win then in the scholarship class here at Brands, that really does keep the championship alive, and Robbie Kerr's going to have to watch out at Silverstone. We'll be right back after the break with all the action from the championship class. Welcome back to Motorsport on 4 from Brands Hatch, and we turn to qualifying for the championship class F3 cars. No one was surprised to find the Carlin cars at the front of the grid, although it was Anthony Davidson on pole this time instead of Sato.
Yeah, I love this place. I've always liked it, and test was good, and it's reflected into this test session.
Takuma Sato suffered a big off in testing, but that hadn't affected his pace any. Mark Taylor was an impressive 3rd. Brands is his local track, and he clearly loves it. Thankfully, Bruce Giuani was able to race once more, although the spectator hit in his Thruxton accident is still seriously ill.
We were going to race the following day, yeah, that's right, and well, it was a shame that I couldn't race because it was my 2 best qualifications, 3rd for the first race and 2nd, my first row. So, well, I was a bit disappointed to not be able to repair the car because the tube was affected, was touched. I was pretty sad when I saw the race started without me on the first front row.
So the lineup for the first championship race sees 3 teams in the top 6. Carlin on the front row, Manor on the 2nd row, and Jaguar occupying row 3. Mark Taylor's the only one not to have won so far this season.
The day started poorly for Jaguar driver André Lotterer, taking himself out on the installation lap, the lap that the drivers use to get from the pits to the grid. He was following some way behind Matt Davis, but must have somehow misjudged their closing speed and rammed the Avanti driver from the rear.
Yeah, it was a bit stupid incident. I was trying to get some space from Matt and to get a bit of speed and trying to warm up my tires. And he slowed down quite hard. He was very slow at that point, and I couldn't stop early enough. And unfortunately, we hit each other. I mean, I was too fast at that point with cold tires and cold brakes. I couldn't stop it.
Well, bad news for Lotterer and Jaguar meant a gap on the grid. 6th place was vacant, behind the 2 Carlin and 2 Manor cars. James Courtney in 5th place. Anthony Davidson's start was so good, even his own teammate queried it. 3rd place man Mark Taylor struggled and accidentally clattered James Courtney into the wall. He was spun around. Courtney somehow survived unscathed.
Still action going through Paddock Hill Bend as Japanese driver Atsushi Katsumata got wide and spun to the back of the field before retiring later. Rob Austin was also in the wars, classified last, 3 laps down.
Newcomer Sakon Yamamoto ended his first race with Avanti in the gravel. He qualified last by 0.7 of a second, but was running in 12th when he went off.
Meanwhile, out in front, Anthony Davidson pulled out a 3-second lead on his teammate, but near the end, Sato had closed right up, despite this uncharacteristic error. Exiting 30s, in the end, he settled for 2nd place.
Well, the team applauded their drivers coming home for the 7th 1-2 of the season, Carlin's 16th victory. Davidson, though, was not happy with his performance.
Anthony, brilliant, well done. Fastest in testing, pole, won the race. There was no mistakes there.
Well, there was in the race, there was plenty of them. That's why my gap deteriorated rapidly. Yeah, I'm pretty disappointed with myself in that race, actually. I just had a 3-second lead and let it get whittled down to nothing through stupid mistakes. So. But, you know, I still won, so there's something about this place and me with pressure and winning races. So.
Anthony won last year's Formula Ford Festival. He likes this place. Behind him, Jamie Spence and Ryan DL, both in the top 6. Good news for the Duma team.
On to the second championship race, and Derek Hayes topped the timesheets for much of the session before slipping to 4th. Ahead of him were the Carlin cars, as expected, but on pole, James Courtney from Jaguar.
Yeah, it went quite well after having a really bad test day here. We only managed to do about 5 or 6 laps before I threw it into the wall and missed the whole test day. To get a 5th and a pole was quite good after that.
Carlin were entertaining their new signing, South African Formula 4 driver Alan van der Merwe. Champion Sato, whose seat he'll be taking next year, was content with his 2nd place on the grid.
Enjoying it right now. It's not seriously, well, of course, you know, winning is perfect. But I just, you know, want to enjoy the Formula 3 race, remaining Formula 3 race. So, André did very well in the first session. I was very pleased, you know, good for him is next year. And Courtney as well.
So to the 4th F3 race of the day. The start here at Brown's always critical because of the way the track slopes down towards the wall. Now Takuma Sato stalled when he had pole position here earlier in the year. In the second start, he managed to get into the lead at paddock from starting in 4th position. I wonder what he's going to do this time. Over to Martin in the commentary box.
Thank you, Ben. And flags all around Brands Hatch flying at half-mast as a mark of respect to those who lost their lives in the American tragedy. Well, everybody waiting for the green lights, and a slow start from James Courtney, Takuma Sato and Anthony Davidson coming up fast from behind, again down by the pit wall. Danger with the Jaguars, but it looks as though Bruce Giuani gets through safely, and Sato looking to take the lead here. Courtney's got the inside line, Sato alongside him still, and if he can stay there, he'll have the inside line at Graham Hill Bend. Oh, and that's Priaulx trying the outside line. It doesn't work for him, but look, Sato is still there. He takes the lead from Courtney. Davidson in 3rd. Davidson fourth in the clash further back. That's Alex Gurney and Bruce Giuani. Giuani in all sorts of trouble weaving around the field. He's been passed by a couple of cars. The Guernsey hill climber, or ex-hill climber, bails out at the top of the hill. And Sato leads at the end of lap 1. Ben, it's going to be tough for anyone to beat him now, I think.
Yeah, Sato really fought for that, didn't he, with James Courtney. They were wheel to wheel all the way through Paddock Hill Bend and through it. Now watch Mark Taylor. Remember, he was in that accident at the start of the previous race, and Taylor's all into the gravel trap on the exit of Paddock Hill Bend.
Well, you saw Davidson's car grounding out as he ran wide, and Taylor went even wider, just held on. I really thought we were in for a ride into the tyres there. Well, there is Anthony Davidson. Taylor, right behind him is Derek Hayes, and there is Gianmaria Bruni in the brown, white and orange car. Just in front of him, this is Matt Davis.
Through 30s. Oh, and he gets it a bit sideways through there. Virtually flat out through that corner, but tricky at the start of the race on cold tyres.
Well, we've seen a lot of that on cold tyres, haven't we, in qualifying and in the racing. Sato leading and easing away from Courtney. Courtney's holding up Davidson. I'm sure Anthony could go quicker if he could only get past the Jaguar. And both Jaguars in the race this time because Lotterer managed to make it safely onto the grid and away around the first couple of laps.
Courtney and Davidson in a good battle there for second. Derek Hayes down in 5th. He pushed Sato hard early in the season, not so much now.
Courtney looking strong here, but it has been a patchy year for Jaguar. The team on the pit wall perhaps worrying about next year, as well as concentrating on the race. James Courtney ditto, wondering where he'll go for next year. if there'll be a Jaguar team or not. But at the moment, he's got his mirrors full of Davidson, and Anthony is desperate to make a move and get by because he can see Sato just driving away. Now, the Sato line, Davidson not quite close enough to go around the outside there, but maybe down the bottom of the hill he'll have a chance.
These two are great rivals in Formula Ford, and now they're rivals in Formula 3, and again Davidson can't quite find that opportunity to get past. Courtney's driving a very clean, very controlled race here in second position.
But ultimately, Ben, very defensive, and as a result a little slow. Look how much closer Mark Taylor is getting, although that may be Taylor, because I think he's pulling away from Derek Hayes, something you wouldn't necessarily have expected earlier in the year, but then he grew up here at Brands Hatch. If he's going to be quick anywhere, it really should be here.
Into Paddock Hill Bend, great corner this, it plunges downhill, uses the curb but not quite as wide as he was earlier into the gravel, and we see Alex Gurney a little further back, and then that battle going on.
That's Giovanni, he's looking at the back of Jamie Spence, and it was getting very close there as Courtney continues to hold off everybody in second place. And Davis is definitely getting a little closer to the back of Lotterer, taking Bruni with him. He's ahead of Gurney, and there is Spence, and oh dear, Bruce Giovanni's damaged his left front nose wing on the back of Jamie Spence's car, but out front and seemingly imperious and untroubled by all of this, Takuma Sato just driving away, and Courtney holding the rest of the train up.
Yeah, it's already 3 seconds, the gap between Sato and Courtney, so Sato has this very much under control. Meanwhile, there is that damaged front wing of Bruce Giovanni, and you can see, look, he runs wide through Paddock Hill Bend. Well, so does Rob Austin behind him when he's got a wing that's working properly. But, you know, he really will be struggling with the handling of that car now.
I wonder what Rob Austin's excuse was. Giovanni's is quite evident. Ooh, we see it pick up in the air there as he turns left into Graham Hill Bend, and that will kill the tyres if he stays out much longer. So Sato then, in a class of his own, clearly, although I still feel that Davidson could go quicker than Courtney if he could get by, and the gap's now starting to spread out. It seems that if you don't make a move early on the Indy circuit at Brands, you tend to get stuck about half a second behind the car in front, because that's where your wings start to work again. Giovanni being passed by Austin, the blue car up the inside, and by Katsumata, his teammate in the yellow and black machine. He's got Ryan Diel right behind, and then Jeffrey Jones, and I'm sure they will all find a way to stream by the stricken Bruce Giovanni. Well, that's a shame for the Frenchman, but unfortunately there's not much you can do about that. You have to have a go sometimes, and occasionally you do pay the penalty. And look, he's got the Duma car all over him, as Katsumata's making a meal of the back of Rob Austin's car as well. 2 more places lost. Sure enough, into the pits he comes, and that, I think, will probably be the effective end of the race for Bruce Giovanni. Very wide out of paddock comes Takuma Sato. It used to be that drivers got penalised for crossing the white line there more than 3 times in a race. It wasn't part of the track, but as Mark Taylor shows us, everybody seems to be using that out-of-bounds area. Rather makes me wonder why there is a white line. Well, I'll get off my soapbox now as Taylor comes down through Graham Hill Bend, and Ben has made it down to the pits.
Bruce, can you just tell us what happened there?
Well, I have been pushed a little bit after the start, and after I tried to dive into the inside of Jamie Spence, I recovered already 2 places. I was maybe 10k's quicker than him, and already in the inside, and he just went straight into my front wheels. His move was a bit too aggressive, I think.
Too much damage to continue then?
Yeah, it wasn't drivable like this, a bit too much on the steer, and there's no point to race for 10.
And on such a short lap as well, he would come out probably a couple of laps down, and likely is not right in the middle of somebody else's battle and get in their way. So Sato then running around towards the checkered flag. Yet another victory, it seems. Takuma Sato has been almost unbeatable this season. Not quite, but still, he's a worthy champion. He's been very impressive in almost every circumstance. Certainly hasn't put a foot wrong in this second championship race at Brands. So, wins by 6 seconds, a conclusive victory over James Courtney. Anthony Davidson bottled up in 3rd, ahead of Taylor, Hayes and Lotterer in the second Jaguar.
Takuma, that was a great win. You had to fight for it pretty hard on that opening lap, though, didn't you?
Really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it, you know, side by side into Paddock Hill Bend, and the Druids, I was outside the court when he was right, you know, right-hand side, and then we down the hill. It was really exciting with it. I so enjoyed it.
Sato had the advantage of starting downhill, and I had to start out of the dip, which pole position isn't the best position here, but got to wait till a reasonable start, and then Sato was beside me the whole first lap, and he sort of has nothing to lose and I've got everything to lose, so I didn't want to push him too hard or wheel bang with him because of what happened in the first race this morning, so just settled into second and got second.
The champion's teammate Anthony Davidson is only 15 points ahead of Derek Hayes, and the second Jaguar of Lotterer only 2 ahead of Bruni now.
So with his 11th win of the year, Takuma Sato stakes his claim for a seat in Formula One. We asked him why he'd chosen to come to England in the first place.
In Japan there is a big motor racing now, and there's so many competition and very, very competitive. So you can drive a good car and very competitive series, and you can drive anything basically. But you never learn English, and suddenly you prepared inside Japan in a driving wise, in a racing skill, you are completely okay. But suddenly come to the Europe, you struggle with communication, and I think communication is the most important thing.
So what is your ultimate ambition? You obviously started out being very keen on driving, now you're on the threshold, you might say, of Formula One. Is it to be the first Japanese to win a Grand Prix?
Well, I'm always, you know, winning. To win Formula One is just my target, you know, real target. So you never know, you know, you could do or not, but basically I'm believing I could do, you know, very optimistic. So for me it doesn't matter what Japanese or some, you know, the nationality is, for me it just doesn't matter.
The other things we associate with Formula One is lots of money, change of lifestyle, lots of girls, fancy parties, things like that. Are you motivated by those sorts of things?
Honestly, I don't know, because I haven't had such a experience. But even so, I'm looking for the just racing in Formula One. Just racing. That is my target.
Well, congratulations on winning the British Formula 3 Championship, and the very best luck for the future and ideally in Formula One.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations to the winners of our 4 different Formula 3 races here today. But now it's time to turn our attention to the GT monsters as they squeeze around this Brands Hatch Indy circuit. Just before we get into that, let's look back over the event from Thruxton.
The Hales Viper team came to Brands Hatch knowing a victory was needed to keep their title hopes alive, and that they then needed the Lister not to score.
Well, to give us a championship chance, that's really the only result that would suit us. If it finishes, it's bound to finish in the top 4 somewhere. So yes, a non-finish is the only result that would suit us. I mean, they've already had to change cars already this weekend, so they haven't started off on the best of footings, but they seem to have all their luck outside of the races.
The Lister team was more relaxed about their position. 4th in the race would be enough for the title, but they crashed out here on the first corner in July.
After his big crash at Thruxton, Michael Caine was happy just to have a car to race, although it was the spare white car repainted.
Martin Short in the GTO TVR was also in trouble, arriving late for qualifying after another engine change.
Pole position in GTO went, no surprises to the Porsche, qualified this time by Marino Franchitti.
Among the newcomers, Stephen Stocco jeopardised his chances of a race with this big off at Surtees in the Certec Porsche.
In the NCK Marcus, Andy Purvis was back with a new co-driver, touring car star Phil Bennett.
It's a sequential shift, but mine you pull to change up in the touring car, and with this, if you pull the gear lever, it goes down. So I'm having to think, okay, push to change up and so on, and it's taken, you know, quite a lot of, you know, of your thought processing.
It's as close as ever at the top of the GT field, the 3 black machines separated by just 0.2 of a second, with the Ultima and the Stealth separated by the faster of the 2 NCK Marcuses.
In GTO, the TVR takes on 4 Porsches with the Day and Hales Viper back in 6th. Join us for the race after the break. Welcome back to Motorsport on 4, where round 12 of the Privilege Insurance British GT Championship is about to get underway. Now, this is a 1 hour long race. That means 70 laps of the tight Brands Indy circuit. Over to you, Martin.
Thank you, Ben. Yes, it will be busy, particularly for the fastest GT cars who will be in slow traffic, well, in probably 3 or 4 laps. Rob Wilson, starting the Viper, leads the field round Clark Curve. Dave Warnock needs to keep out of trouble in the Lister Storm. He was tangled in an accident lap 1, corner 1 here in July. He starts outside front row of the grid, the TVR in third, and then, oh, further back, David Dove's Marcus goes off into the gravel as they get the green light. Wilson leads, Warnock lets the TVR through into second place, so Michael Caine picks up 1 spot away from the grid, and so too does Rob Bath in the green and blue TVR Tuscan R. He's coming around the outside now of Dave Warnock, a little bit of rubbing there, but the GTO leader is now third place overall. Look how tight it is behind as the Ultima and close relative, the Stealth, make contact. The GTO cars trying to fight their way through this tightly packed field. And out front, Rob Wilson has the easy part, perhaps holding off Michael Caine, but he can see where he's going. He's got 2 or 3 laps of clear track ahead of him.
Now we're riding on board with Matt Tirner here, passing Warnock at McLaren, now into 5th place overall, and just ahead of him is the other Power Motorsport Porsche of Marino Franchitti. But here comes Dave Warnock, using that extra power, is he? No, not quite. I thought he might overtake into paddock, but it didn't happen.
Well, Warnock can barely not catch the Porsche in a straight line, but as ever, he's being ultra cautious in the opening laps here. Turner still ahead, right behind Tim Sugden, the blue and white Porsche. All these GTO guys desperate to get at it. Oops, and the GTO Viper runs a little wide there. The Curtis Hale Stephen Day car, and side by side with the Quaife down the hill. Right behind them, Paul Stevens and Jerry Taylor's NCK Marcus, the 2 Caterham drivers with a slightly bigger sports car to play with.
Up front, things are settling down a little bit now. Rob Wilson with that healthy advantage up front. Michael Caine still running in second. Everybody filing through Surtees. It is tight through there, but so far so good. There goes Caine in second. Third place, the GTO TVR. Oh, and somebody's had a spin. That's the other Viper. That's the GTO car of Stephen Day and Curtis Hales.
Well, Curtis is having an adventurous second lap, isn't he? Forced onto the grass at Druids, spins at Surtees, and he will drop all the way down the field. There's the second Tuscan R. Richard Stanton ahead of Adam Simmons. We're on board with the Harlow Motorsport Porsche. Terry Reimer, the other driver in this car, up to Druids. Right ahead you can see the silver tail end of the Ultima, which has now been passed by the Stealth. There is the Ultima. And there is Lister boss Lawrence Pierce checking the times, keeping his lap charts up to date. And reliability hasn't been a problem for him this year. He'll just be worrying, like Warnock, about potential problems in traffic and then maybe an accident taking the car out of the race.
That's true, but Dave Warnock's doing a sensible job. He's still got Tim Sugden behind him, but he's not doing anything silly at this point. He just wants to keep the car in one piece. Now we're on board with Mark Pashley, coming up towards Paddock Hill Bend, trying to get past Andy Purvis in the NCK Marcus, just following through Paddock, down the dip here, accelerating hard. Oh, and smoke filling the cockpit. That's a bit odd. Something very strange going on inside that Stealth. That should not be happening. It clears a little bit as he comes up towards Druids. Back on the power again. I don't know, there might be some sort of oil leak somewhere there, and trouble indeed for Mark Pashley.
Well, those two and the Ultima battling for 4th place in GT. They're behind the Lister Storm, and they need really to stay there for the Lister to score the points it needs to seal the championship. And Warnock now picking up the pace a little, back in front of the second Power Motorsport car of Matt Tirner, who was past him earlier on, and Tim Sugden also having a look at the back of Matt Tirner. Maybe Turner's run into a problem then.
Well, Tim having a little look to the outside, and then we'll try and cut back to the inside, I think, on the exit of Paddock Hill Bend, but he's not really close enough. In fact, Matt Turner had a lot of speed through Paddock, and Tim wasn't able then to capitalise on the move on the straight. So Tim continues to follow the orange and blue Porsche.
And that battle behind as well, you're catching a glimpse of. The Marcus has got the Stealth right back up behind it again. So obviously, whatever the small fire on board was, it didn't seem to be too much of a problem. Turner holding off Sugden on this short track. The leaders should soon be in amongst the back marker traffic. And there behind the Ultima is Charlie Cox in the Surtec Porsche, 13th overall, 8th in GT.
Now we're on board with Sean Balfe, who's 2 places further back. He's just behind Paul Stevens here, and the Surtec Porsche just ahead. Has a little look up into clearways and spins it. That's Sean Balfe making a big mistake, almost trying to get past Stevens. It didn't work, and I think he's going to recover okay. Yes, he does, but he's lost a lot of places.
Well, actually, he's going to luck in here because there was a big gap behind him. He only lost 2. The second of those there to Tony Littlejohn in the other Certec Porsche. Michael Caine, oh look, there's the Ultima going very slowly. Caine in second place, teammate Bobby Verdenroe awaiting the pit stops. And the TVR team looking a little anxious. Rob Wilson, the race leader, but Caine is still with him, keeping him honest. The Viper and the TVR setting a ferocious pace at the front of the field, and sure enough now, a chance perhaps for Caine in the slower traffic to make a move on the Viper.
David Dove and Gary Townsend in the Marcuses just ahead of Rob Wilson, and Rob gets past the first of them fairly easily, past Townsend, and now he'll try and get past David Dove. Meanwhile, battle going on further back here, and this is for the GTO class. Look at this, Rob Barth trying to get up the inside of Curtis Hales, and they make contact. Right behind them is the other GTO class car, and into the gravel goes Curtis Hales. Drama indeed up at Clearways, and a change for the lead in GTO. Look, Marino Franchitti's got in front.
Yeah, opportunist move by Franchitti, slipped inside and took the lead. He's third overall, Barth in fourth, and Hales was a lap down, 19th overall. Here comes his teammate Rob Wilson, still leading the race though.
Yes, in the GT car rather than the GTO car, so this leading the race outright, but with the TVR close behind Michael Caine and finding their way through traffic. There's Charlie Cox, they're trying to get past now as they come through paddock, and look how much this has allowed the TVR to close up.
Well, the real danger here is for the race leader, perhaps more than Michael Caine, because these GT cars... Oh, Caine now, just to prove me wrong, gets inside Charlie Cox. Cox doesn't quite see him or give him enough room, and they make contact. And there you go, that almost completes the thought. These slightly slower GT cars are so much harder for the fast front-running guys to pass, unless, like Michael Quaife there in the Quaife, they are a gentleman, and a bit falling off the Viper there, that may be a problem. Dave Warnock comes in from third place in the GT class, don't forget, still in a championship winning position, very early, right at the opening of the pit window, to hand over to teammate Mike Jordan. In 2 comes Matt Turner, he'll hand over to Ed Horner. The American hauled out and Horner shoved in. And in 2 comes Michael Caine's car. Now, I'm sure the team will hope that that is okay. Bobby Verdenroe into the car. And the Viper at a standstill as well. So all the 3 championship contenders, the front runners, are in the pits. Tim Harvey already in the seat. Rob Wilson in the doorway there trying to help him. Not the smoothest stop ever from the TVR crew. And oh, the Power Motorsport crew trying to jump out of the way as they hold up their pit board. Safety car is out though. I'm sure that's to allow the marshals to rescue the Hales Viper, and some work going on in the pits to try and sort out the TVR. Looks like there was some fairly hefty contact between them as well. Off goes Martin Short. Here's Mike Jordan behind the safety car. He's not the race leader though, so yes, he does get the wave by signal then. 1 car go by. He's looking for Bobby Verdenroe in the TVR because Michael Caine stopped a lap earlier than the others, and there is Caine, he's the leader. But Ben is down in the pits and he's with Rob Barth.
Rob, you got out of the car looking pretty angry. What's upset you?
I got Hales. I came up behind Curtis in the Viper at Surtees. I saw him look in his mirrors. He'd seen me. He then stayed wide at Clearways. I dived down the inside and he just hit me off. And yeah, just touched. But back to second. The car's fairly evil handling, so fingers crossed it'll actually end.
Well, let's have a look at that again. As he says, the TVR inside as Curtis Hales gave him some room, and then, well, I don't know, thought better of it? Not quite sure what the thinking there was at all. And Rob Barth similarly a little at sea. So, the Viper rescued then, the safety car lights are off, ready to go again. Bobby Verdenroe leads. Tim Harvey in the black Viper, third in the queue. In second place, Kelvin Burt in third place overall, but some way further back towards the tail end of the queue. And they'll have to negotiate the Ferrari after paddock. Oh my goodness me, a big mistake by Bobby Verdenroe. Drops the car out of paddock from the lead of the race, and it looks as though he's lost the engine as well. Well, that's not what he will have wanted on cold tyres, to throw the car down the hill. So Tim Harvey now the race leader, passing Neil Woodford's Ferrari, which is 4 laps down. The Marcus behind him is no threat, nor is the Lister. This doesn't change much for the Lister team. They needed to be in the top 4, and they still are. So as long as they can keep the car on the track, and Mike Jordan should be able to do that despite the number of cars on this busy Brands Hatch circuit, they'll clinch the title here. So it's avoid the accident. Oh my goodness me! I don't believe it. Bill Tully spins. Broken suspension on the Marcus. Don't forget that car went into the gravel before the green flag. Maybe a legacy of that, but that was a heart-in-the-mouth moment there. And the TVR of Bobby Verden-Rowe now getting away. And he's very low at the left rear. I think he's got a flat tyre, maybe from the spin. Maybe that even caused the spin. Well, heart-in-the-mouth moment for the TVR team and for the Lister team now in the last couple of laps. And here comes Verden-Rowe. Yeah, shredded left rear. Well, cause or effect, we'll have to find out later, I'm afraid.
Well, it's all been happening out there, hasn't it? He makes his way back into the pits. There is Mike Jordan in the Lister. Still on target, just going through lapping some cars, but he can't quite get past Terry Pudwell at the moment. Meanwhile, getting out of the Marcos Bill Tully, into the pits comes the TVR.
And the TVR's lost 4 laps after that incident behind the safety car, or after the safety car pulled off. They're changing that left rear tyre, and that was the side where the car clashed with Charlie Cox's Porsche. Maybe that led to the puncture, so ultimately put BVR off the road. Now, they are changing the right rear. Looks as though they may be swapping the tyres to have the used tyre on the outside, on the left-hand side, which is the more used side here at Brands Hatch. Back on board with Mike Jordan. 16 seconds down to leader Tim Harvey, whose Viper we just saw. 6 cars between them, but in actual fact, they're all GTO cars. It really doesn't matter. He's still second in GT. He doesn't actually have to pass anybody, but being a racing driver, of course, he will feel the need to. Goes past the Mark Sumpter Porsche, already past Steve Hyde in the Tuscan R. Those 2 places put him up to 3rd place overall. And the TVR Speed 12 still in the pits. Bobby Verden-Rowe heads off once more.
Michael, high drama here. Do you know what happened?
No, I mean, we brought the car in. We had a little bit of contact with a Porsche up at Druids. He just sort of turned in, but that was the front of the car. Haven't heard anything on the radio. We were leading, and then Bobby's coming with 2 flat tyres.
Well, let's take a look at the incident again. The TVR inside Charlie Cox's Porsche. Contact at the front, but then at the rear. Maybe Michael didn't quite feel that, but that may have deflated the tyre, and that may have led to Bobby Verden-Rowe spinning out after the safety car. A little bit of art as the Ultima belches fire. So too does the Marcus. Steve Hyde here, going inside Terry Reimer. Spins at Druids. Oh dear. Well, he's over the curbs on the inside, but there'll be a lot of 3-point turning before he finds his way back onto the track from there. He's nosed into the bank. He was going for 4th place in GTO, and looks to be fairly stuck there. GTO race leader still Kelvin Burt from Martin Short. They're very close together, just 3 or 4 car lengths in it, but Burt holding that advantage over the TVR Tuscan R.
And we go on board with Mike Jordan heading up towards Druids, right behind Martin Short. Waved yellow flags up here. That's because of Steve Hyde's car off on the inside, so no overtaking around that part of the track. Wait for the green, and then you can get on with passing again down through Graham Hill and along to Surtees, and Kelvin Burt trying to do just that.
Just getting away with it as well. Alex Pilgrim didn't think he was coming through there, but Burt is under pressure for the GTO win from Martin Short. Don't forget, this is 2nd, 3rd and 4th overall, with Kelvin Burt 2nd place in the race at the moment. Mike Jordan should have the power to get by them both on this straight. Goes inside Martin Short. Oh, that looks like contact there. Short didn't see him coming, I don't think, but survives that one, as does Jordan. And again, a heart-fluttering moment for Mike Jordan there. He doesn't have to pass these guys, but he still wants to, just for safety's sake. Now Ben's caught up with his teammate in the pits, Dave Warnock.
About 20 seconds the gap at the moment. Do you think Mike can make that up?
I'm not sure it's the prime importance, to be honest. It's going to be a question of stroking at home. He's looking after the car.
It's all about championship.
That's what it's all about today. Thanks.
Well, let's hope Mike remembers that. There is Steve Hyde out of the black and yellow TVR Tuscan R on the inside of Druids, and he'll be disappointed with himself, I think, for that. Paul Knapfield battling with Neil Cunningham. They are 8th and 9th overall, 4th and 5th in the GTO category. 2 laps down on the race and class leaders. Cunningham dives inside at Graham Hill Bend, and Terry Reimer next car back in that GTO battle. So the Lister behind Bobby Verden-Rowe. Verden-Rowe, of course, 4 laps down after that tyre went down and pitched him into a spin from the lead of the race. What luck TVR have had this year has all been bad. Bobby stays out of the way and allows Mike Jordan safely through. And Dave Warnock, well, counting down the laps and the minutes perhaps until the championship that eluded him last year may yet be his this year. Blue flags for the slower cars, and Tim Harvey will take as few chances as possible here. I think he knows the odds. He knows that Jordan will not try and take the victory if they can win the championship. So Harvey strokes it through the back market traffic. Oh my goodness, and off goes Terry Reimer. A very uncharacteristic error there by Terry. Maybe he had a problem that pitched him off into gravel, but at least he missed the Viper. And Hugh Chamberlain and the team will be mighty relieved because the Viper is on course for its 4th win of the season. Last lap, out of clearways, the checkered flag awaits Tim Harvey. He will win this one comfortably. Race win number 4 for the Viper, but the championship will go to the Lister Storm because they've had their scares as well. But Mike Jordan coming out of clearways to take 2nd place in the race and the 2001 GT Championship for himself and for teammate Dave Warnock. And Warnock with the team on the pit wall to celebrate. The title that had eluded him last year is his.
Brilliant, well done, many congratulations.
I like winning, you know that, and we've worked hard to win this championship this year. It's been a fight with Harvey and Wilson all the way through the year, and it's a very nice feeling to have beaten them.
So they were 1st and 2nd in GT. The NCK Marcus is 3rd and 4th ahead of the Quaife, and the TVR finishing up 6th in class. In GTO, it was all about Burt and Franchitti once more. Short and Bath giving them a good run for their money ahead of the Phalanx of Porsches.
No, it was a good close race, and one on the traffic, I think, on the overtaking. I think we're equally matched for pace.
I think you're blowing it, son. Yellow flag, tell us about this. What's he talking about here?
He passed somebody under a yellow flag, and he thinks that might reflect on me.
Right, well, we'll have to see what everyone else says.
Well, the incident surrounded the yellow flags that Steve Hyde brought out spinning at Druids. Martin Short was chasing Kelvin Burt through traffic. As they passed Terry Reimer, no flag on the right. Burt goes by, waved yellow extreme left as Martin Short passes, realises his mistake, comes back. But the stewards agreed with Kelvin Burt. His move was fair. So the champions in the GT class decided at last. Jordan and Warnock have had one hand on it for a few weeks, but now it is theirs. And in the GTO class, Kelvin Burt and Marino Franchitti have already tied that one up. Porsches in the top 3 places.
That's it for the event here at Brands Hatch. Tim, what did you make of the Formula 3 event?
Well, another dominating win by Sato and by Davidson, so a good weekend for Carlin Motorsport. Not a lot of overtaking, but Sato certainly called the overtake of the race meeting.
Michael, what did you make of the GTs?
Well, unfortunately, I've got to congratulate Tim this weekend on the win, and obviously to Lister for Mike Jordan and Dave Warnock getting the GT Championship. But I think everybody's looking forward to the night race at Silverstone now.
Thanks very much, Michael. There's just that one event to come from Silverstone, including the nighttime GT race, and you'll be able to watch all the action here on Channel 4 next week. Join us then. For now, goodbye.
And that's the same time, 11 a.m. If you'd like to catch up on all the latest motorsport news and info, go to 4car.co.uk. Next up on 4, we enter the Crossfire.